Wendy. Another opportunity the pandemic thrust upon us all is how to stay connected virtually. And I do think this is an opportunity. I'm certainly doing business differently than I did at the beginning of 2020. Many of the changes I've been forced to make are working well and likely to continue post-pandemic, whenever that might be. I know you've successfully implemented a number of changes in your practice to be responsive to clients and to continue to build relationships. Thinking about the industry as a whole, what are some of the biggest challenges and changes you've seen impacting how we do business?
That's a great question, Christopher. I think it's the evolution of our suppliers. Our suppliers have had to make a number of really big investments into their technology. You know, the statistics I've heard is they've spent 10 to 15 years of budget in like 3 to 4 months. And as an advisor, I so appreciate the work that has been done because it's making it easier for me to do business and it's making it easier for our clients to do business with us. So I think all of those things that they've been doing in terms of electronic applications, being able to deliver policies electronically, have been phenomenal for us. You know, I think back to all those things that we had to do before and now how much easier it is. It's great. Also on the underwriting side, when you look at some of the changes they've made in terms of limits, what are some of the requirements that they're looking for depending on how much insurance and age, I love the fact that so many more policies now don't need a nurse visit, or don't need to have fluids drawn. And it just makes it easier for the client. It puts one last thing they have to do to get it approved, and it makes it so much easier. And I really, really hope that some of those things will end up being a permanent change.
What are the biggest technological benefits you've seen as a result of this pandemic?
I see so many benefits for technology during this time, and I just really am so thankful that this did not happen 5 years ago, because I don't know that we would have had the same ability to carry on our business because the technology just wasn't there, or it might have been super expensive to adapt, where now things are so reasonably priced, and when you look at the cost benefit, man, we're ahead of the game on that type of stuff. And so I think of that we've been able to shift our business to virtually a lot easier than we could have before, and that's a benefit of technology. When I look at the fact that we can do Zoom technology or any other type of video technology, there's so many platforms and we can go on them so easily and be able to communicate and do work together. DocuSign, things of that nature, and all the ability to be able to get electronic signatures has been fantastic. We get to save time. We get to save time in travel. Our clients get to save time in travel. We're actually able to execute so much more business virtually. I mean, I look at being able to do a whole conversion or a whole renewal of an insurance policy that has come up on the end of its 10 years, and we're able to actually have the meeting, decide, here's the issue, here are your options, this is the option I want to do, and I'm actually able to also complete the application and submit. And we did that in 30 minutes. It was less time to complete the whole meeting than it would have been just to travel to and from the meeting. So I think of the advantages of technology have been great there. One of the other benefits I have found too is that so many conferences were forced to go virtual. And so as a result of that, I was able to attend so many more conferences I never would have attended in the past. You know, either the registration fee was too expensive, or I would have had to take the time to travel, all those types of things. And now I was able to do it just from the comfort of my office. So I'm getting exposed to new ideas, get to meet new people and network with new people. I've made some fantastic connections and learned some great content, and I wouldn't have been able to do that pre-pandemic.
Speaking of pre-pandemic, were you using any of this technology pre-pandemic?
Christopher, I absolutely was. I was using Zoom. I've been using Zoom now for 3 to 4 years, and I was probably conducting 25 to 30% of my meetings on Zoom even prior to the lockdown. And so I found it incredibly easy to shift into 100% virtual. And I recognize that wasn't the same for everybody, so you know, it's been a tough slog for some folks to get over into the virtual world and get comfortable with it. You know, we're so used to meeting in person or doing telephone. So to switch into a digital world or a virtual world like this has been hard for some people. And so I think it's just, I find with all of these shifts, the more I do it, the more comfortable I am with it, and the more I find it easy to do. I almost don't want to do phone calls anymore. I just want to Zoom with everybody so I can see their face and see how they're reacting to the stuff we're talking about in a different way.
What did you find most helpful as you've adapted your practice to use technology more effectively?
That's a great question, Christopher. And actually, it isn't any technology. I think it's a mindset. I think it's being open to trying new things. I think it is being receptive to adapting the way we've always done things to find a different way in our new environment. I think some of the resistance to maybe adapting new technology has been, hey, this is going to be over soon and I can go back to the way I used to do things. But maybe now that the way things are, and it's been going on for quite some time, we have to change things to be able to get the same results we want with our clients, and to in terms of being able to feel heard, they feel like they get to see what they need to see, all those pieces. So I think that to me has been the most helpful for myself and my team to do that. And, you know, I'm also lucky in that we had a whole bunch of this stuff set up in advance. So we'd already done some of that work about which ones to choose, which technologies would make the most sense, and having the mindset of, hey, let's just try this. I'm going to call up Christopher and I'm going to try this new technology and see how it works. What do you think? Did it work? Okay, let's try it on our clients now. So we've been really open and honest when we're trying new things, and also giving ourselves permission that it might not work, but that it's okay. We'll just try something else.
How have older clients and younger clients adapted to this technology?
When you look at the older client profile, if you will, I think we're all guilty at sometimes of making certain assumptions about their ability to adapt with technology, their willingness to adapt to technology, just by virtue of how old they are. And then we look at during this whole entire pandemic, they've also had to change how they interact with their family, with their grandchildren, and all those people. So now they're a little bit more accustomed to using technology than in the past. So it's not as hard for them to imagine or to actually execute with you as an advisor an online meeting. I love the fact that we're seeing a change and an evolution in terms of how adaptable our older population is to technology. And again, it's not 100% across the board, but I love it. And when we look at the younger population, I mean, this is just another thing for them to do. They're so on top of technology and how to do things. You know, I think back to an example. We were trying to embed a video into a newsletter, and we struggled with it. And my assistant, who's under 30, boom, 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 done. So this is easy for them to do. We don't have to worry about them as much. That is for sure.
Have you had clients that you cannot use technology with? How do you deal with this?
Absolutely. As I said before, none of this stuff is 100%. None of the technology I use is going to apply 100%, because you always have a few outliers who want things done a little differently, or just can't have to have it done a little differently. And so, for example, I do have a few clients that do want to meet in person. And so what we have done is instituted some protocols at the office where we have sanitizer at the door. Depending on the meeting, we try to keep as open a space as possible so that we can maintain our 6-foot distances, wearing masks. And of course, if we were to go to visit them in their home, we would have kind of the same protocols in the sense of, let's have a conversation about what that looks like before we enter the home. Okay, so we're going to do a sanitizer before we head in. Listen, do we have a space that's nice and open to meet in? Is it going to be possible to do 6-foot distancing? Let's wear masks the whole meeting, and really talking that through. Let them be where they're going to be most productive and open to hearing what you have the conversation about.
Give us some specific examples of the technology you've incorporated in your practice and how you use it.
We are using a couple of different things. One of the biggest one is we have really adopted the Microsoft platform and are using their SharePoint services. And what that has allowed us to do is actually move all of our client information online. Let's call it a digital file folder, if you will, or a digital filing cabinet. We were actually able to, through that process, to get rid of 7 drawers, lateral drawers of file folders of clients' information. So we were able to put it online, and so now no matter where I am, no matter where any of my team is, if they need to look up something that happened in the past or documentation for a client, they're able to get through SharePoint, and it's super secure. And if we ever wanted to, we could actually even set up so that certain of those files could be accessible by the client at certain points along the way if we wanted to. We haven't gotten to that level yet, but we're using the Teams atmosphere, the Teams planner, all those pieces as a way to stay on track, manage projects, share information. And I know Google, a lot of people are using Google. I have no idea about the levels of security around that, but I do know there are other options for them to be, for advisors to use to share information. One of the neat technologies that I've brought on as well is a thing called LastPass. So it's kind of a platform, and it is a password keeper, if you will, but I love some of the features on it. So for example, you can do shared passwords. So I use passwords with my assistant that we have the same passwords, or she has access to mine. It's all done through the platform. But where this really comes into effect is if my assistant leaves. In the past, before we started using LastPass, we would have to spend the day changing each and every password for all the different fund companies, all the insurance companies, all those different platforms I use to change the password so she wouldn't have access anymore. And now we can execute that with one click of a button, and she has no more access to that platform anymore, to any of the shared passwords. So it has been very helpful. When I think about how many times I'm now required to change my password, how it won't let me use the same thing I did before 3 or 4 times ago. It doesn't let me. It wants like 5 different exclamation points. It wants this, it wants that. And I'm like, I can never remember any of the passwords anymore. So this is where LastPass comes in, and it makes it super easy for us to manage our passwords. It also has the ability to create passwords, so now we can even develop super secure passwords for different sites if we want to. And I only have to remember the one password to get in, which I'm not allowed to even say out loud. So it allows us to have access to all those pieces. My husband and I share Netflix. We have all different other ones that we're sharing online. I have stuff I share with my assistants. I have outside marketing people who have access to my LinkedIn and to my Facebook. And so we're able to manage those passwords and turn them off if we need to.
And how are you onboarding new clients?
See, that's part of it, right? So when we're having a client, when we think of onboarding a new client, that is when we have to get new information. We have to gather a whole bunch of information. And for me, I like to try and get as much of it as possible before the first meeting. So what I've been doing is sending out fillable forms that they can just type in the answers, and then they can send them back easily to me. So that makes that easier. The other thing is, if I'm asking for information, that would be, say, copies of investment statements or copies of current insurances or bank statements, anything like that. I'm asking them to scan them and then upload them into a secure document system that we have that we use called Exavault. Think of it as a Dropbox that has a whole bunch of security added on top of that. So that's what we use for managing document flow back and forth, especially if it's of a sensitive nature. So that way we're able to gather the information in a way that is safe and secure and easy for the client to execute. So that's how we do our onboarding.
And how are you setting up the meetings?
So the meetings, of course, we're using calendar technology. I have been using calendar technology now, got to be 7 years. And it started when I was doing a dealer change, and if anyone's ever been through that, they understand the pain of trying to set up additional and a meeting with every one of your clients to do a whole bunch of paperwork, to repaper your clients. And so we started executing that right away. We're on our 3rd iteration of that. And what I love about it is it takes that back and forth out. And I can't begin to think of how much time and effort I've saved. So in the traditional way, Chris, if we think about it, we're going to send you an email. Hey, Chris, how do you feel about Thursday at 4 or Friday at 2? And of course, being this world, you don't get back to me until Friday and say 2's great. And you're like, it's already gone. So then I send out another email. Well, that's not going to work. How about these times? And so we go back and forth. So we probably spend, 20, 30 minutes sometimes going back and forth over time to find that ideal time and get it locked into the calendar. So let's think about how the calendar app goes. Hey, Chris, I'd love to get together and do a review. Here, click this link here and go pick a time that works for you or you and your spouse for us to meet. How much extra time did that take, right? So that is why I love using a calendar app. It's just so easy to do, and you can do all kinds of things with it. You can block out, I only do these meetings on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I need to have a half hour to an hour buffer between every meeting in case it runs over. Or I call this post-pandemic time frames. We might actually be driving somewhere, so we need the time to have the ability to get to the next location, and so we want to have those buffers built in. And you can even say, like, I only have my calendar open 2 days from today, so no one can get in today at the last minute. So there's all kinds of ways to use that technology to make it easy for your clients and for you to schedule those meetings. And it saves so much time. And when you look at the cost, so worth it.
So how do we get clients comfortable with using the technology?
A couple of things. So when it comes to, it depends on the technology to some degree. With Zoom, sometimes, you know, you're actually having the, okay, down in the left-hand corner is your video camera. Do you see the red line through it? Okay, click that, and so that they know that the video's on. Okay, the next one is your audio. Okay, so we got that all sorted so they can get comfortable. So it's kind of knowing enough about the software so you can guide them through how to use it. Then the other thing is I had a client who, I think 70s to 80s, and we wanted to have him DocuSign a document, and he was resistant. He was like, I don't even use my cell phone for anything. So I called him up and I said, listen, here's how I'd love to try this in my ideal world. This was how we do it. If it doesn't work, we don't need to do it this way. But hey, how about if we send you a trial document just to see if it works for you? And so we did that, he clicked on it, and then we were able to actually execute all the documents in DocuSign from there on in. So it's easing the client into it, having patience and being willing to do a different way if it doesn't work for them, I think has been the easiest way to get them comfortable. We're not presenting it as you must do it this way. I'm presenting it as, hey, it'd be awesome if we could try this because it would make it so much easier.
As the pandemic has continued, have you seen the clients' use of technology become more comfortable or more consistent?
Absolutely. I think, again, it comes to that point of this is, and I really do kind of hate this term, but the new normal for a period of time. So it's kind of like, I'm just going to do it. And you know, it's like any new habit. The more we try something, the more we do something, the comfortable it is. We lose some of those barriers to adoption. And then we all of a sudden we're like, hey, I don't remember a life when I didn't do a Zoom. So I think that's the mindset piece from the client. They get there. Just like we do as advisors get comfortable with technology and using it.
Are there any new technologies that you've recently discovered that you're currently using with clients?
Yes, Christopher, I have found some fantastic technologies that have really helped augment the work I'm doing with clients. The one I love the most is called Loom, L-O-O-M. And it is a free technology if within certain constraints. And that is, if you can do a video under 5 minutes, it's free. Otherwise, you have to sign up for the package. It really forces clarity when you're doing it for free. So what I do and how I use that is if I've had a meeting where I've covered something that may be a little bit more complex, or I want to make sure that certain points got home. Think, for example, a whole life illustration. I mean, those are so very complex when a client is looking at just columns and columns of numbers and they don't know where to focus their attention on and they don't know where to look. So what I will do in many cases, I will do an email and I will attach the actual illustration to the email. And then before I hit play, what I'm going to do, or send, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Loom technology. And what it does is it allows me to film my screen. So then it also puts my little face down in the corner as I talk and I go, okay, this is what the dividend rate is right now. And if we go to the next page and I flip through and I go, on this side, this is the lower dividend rate and this is what this means. So I talk about all the things I want them to focus on and then I hit stop. The video is done, and then I get a link that I can just put into the email that actually has the video explainer of the whole document that I've put on with the video. I have gotten some great feedback from clients. Even for post sales, like, why did I do this again? This whole life thing, and I do the explainer video and they go, oh, I get it now. Thanks. And by the way, I'm going to use this technology with my clients. So it's been very helpful for clients because it's just another way to make sure that the key points I wanted to get home after the meeting have gone home. And we know that most times people would rather watch a video than read a very long, dense email. So that's why I do it that way. It's been fantastic.
How has your method of communicating with clients changed as a result of this pandemic?
Really, it came to going back to basics, Christopher. And the things that I used to think, oh, those are nice to do, became you must do. So I changed immediately, started doing monthly newsletters. And we've been also serving our clients. Is this enough? Do you want more? Where are you in terms of how much communication is too much communication? But we've settled on the monthly, and we really did a lot of focus, in particular right around the first, where there was so much going on in the investment world, and the markets were a little bit volatile, if you remember. And so we wanted to do a bunch of we did Zoom videos, we did a bunch of different documents that they could look at, and really worked with them on here's the mentality to think about, here's what's happened in the past, here's where we think things are going, so that they could get that comfort level with their investments and could relax on that piece and know that we were always there. Every newsletter had an opportunity because it had a link to my calendar so that they could book in and have a call up if they had anything going on that they wanted to chat about.
Are you getting new clients, and if so, how are you doing that?
I am getting new clients through networking. I'm getting new clients through webinars. So I basically took a lot of what I was doing and went online with it. So with networking, it's been so much easier to go to different groups and to hang out with different people that I might have not have hung out with in the past. I would go, hey, you're kind of cool. Let's have a coffee, a virtual coffee. And I'd send them a link to my calendar so we could book in and have a virtual coffee and just get to know each other. And it's why I was able to actually do a whole webinar series with a lawyer out of Toronto that I have never seen. I've never met in person, but we met somehow in a networking event, and all of a sudden, hey, this would be a good idea. And we did 3 Zoom webinars on estate planning because we just were open to new ideas and executing on them. And I will say this, as with anything new, running a webinar is tough the first few times you do it because you get no reactions. If you're used to talking to people in a live format, you can see your audience, you can see if, oh, I should go down to that road a little bit further. So the first 3 to 5 I suspect were terrible. And but I just kept doing them because I got more comfortable. I got more used to just looking into the camera, talking away, and at the end answering the questions that came in through the chat. So it's definitely a change in how you do things, and you just need to do it until you're comfortable.
So how are clients dealing with the pandemic? Have you noticed any changes around clients' mindset, mental health, or well-being? And if so, what can we as advisors do?
I have definitely seen a shift. I think it comes down to knowledge and understanding of what's going on. So when we look at when this first started in March of 2020, it was fast. It was unknown. We didn't know what this disease was. We didn't know which populations it was going to affect more. People were definitely in crisis mindset. We don't know what's happening to our jobs. Our kids are home and we now have to be teachers. Will my business survive? All those pieces have kind of to some degree started. We have either solutions, or we know what's happening, or we have an idea of what the safety nets are that have been built by the government, because those are all in place now. So we have a lot more knowledge. So I think that has removed the crisis brain, and people are starting to look forward. I saw that happen probably around month 3 or 4, that people started to look forward again. They could get beyond survival and what does this really mean to me today to, okay, this is it, now I can look back to the future. I really did see that. And I think that the mental health issue, how we can help, well, we can listen, we can be empathetic, we can also help them with the questions they have about money and all the things that we help them with as advisors. If we can take that worry off their mind or help them strategize and come up with solutions, we can help reduce the clutter in their mind and all the complexities and all the things that are going on and talking to them that they're worrying about. Because the more we can reduce those worries in their head, the better their lives will be, which will affect their mental health.
Wendy, let's switch gears and talk about your team. How are you managing to stay connected with everyone, especially those working remotely?
It was such a shift and it happened so quickly, the going from we're all in the office to now we're all virtual, because I can remember on the Monday saying, okay, you know, there's no reason you can't work here, but if you're uncomfortable and you want to work from home, you can work from home. And by Thursday, everybody's working from home. So it was that fast a transition. And my biggest concern was the loss of the accidental or the informal communications. You know, I walk by someone's desk, we say something, hey, how are you? You lose that when you're all virtually because those opportunities for that type of communication goes away. So what we did immediately was we instituted a meeting. And that meeting was a little looser, a little less structured. Hey, what's going on with you today? How was your evening? All those types of conversations that we might have normally had in the lunchroom, at the water cooler, if you will, the water cooler talk. So we tried to find a way to replace that. And even if it was only for 15 minutes a day, it was an ability for us to have those touch points and to see, you know, here's what's coming up today. Is there any way I can help you today? What do you need? That type of stuff. So it was really good from that perspective. It also gave us as leaders an opportunity to tap in and see where they were mentally, because I was concerned about everybody's mental health. I mean, all of a sudden, everything's changed so much and so quickly. So to even be able to gauge the energy of the meeting that we're having on a Zoom and go, oh, it feels low. What can I do? And it could be as silly as let's watch dumb cat videos for a few minutes and just get a laugh going so that the energy would come up and they would go into their day with a smile on their face, which it was really, really important to me. And in the establishment of meeting rhythms like that, I think become even more important. And so we formalized our weekly meetings. We've added in monthly meetings. We did a virtual strategic planning session for the first time. And one of the things we did, Christopher, which a lot of people don't know about, is we did our Christmas party virtually. And we had a virtual murder mystery. And no, I was not the murderer. So that was good. But it was an opportunity to engage in a different way and have some fun together, even though it was virtual. So it was quite fun.
So Wendy, one of the things we've implemented in my personal practice is setting up individual meetings with our staff. So every Monday from 10 o'clock, we do 20-minute individual meetings. Are you doing anything similar with your staff?
Absolutely. Well, we're doing it a little differently, but at the end, I think it has the same effect in that we are doing every 2 weeks one-on-one 1-hour sessions with our staff, and I call them strategy meetings, and it's like, what's working for you, what's not working, how can I support you better, what are your goals for the next 2 weeks, let's get them down so we can hold you accountable to those, all those types of discussions, just knowledge. And the more that our staff know what we expect from them and what's coming up for them makes them perform better, because it takes that uncertainty out of their mind. It makes it work better.
And prior to the pandemic, were you doing individual meetings, or is this something new?
This is something new because this is more formal. In the past, it would have been informal. Oh, hey, do you have an hour this afternoon that we could get together and talk about XYZ? Versus now, it is very much structured. It's very in the calendar in advance, all those types of things so that we can make sure that we're addressing that. And just surfacing the things that are not working for them or that they're worried about that we can then address. Maybe that's a system change. Maybe that is something I have to do a little differently so that they can do their job better. So, I wish I had been. Again, I found the pandemic made me change some of my business practices for the better.
Wendy, you've definitely embraced a lot of technology changes with your team and your clients because of the pandemic. Do you think they're here to stay?
I think elements of them are going to be here to stay for sure, because it's just too much easier. I mean, I think now that I'm comfortable with electronic applications, I'm doing more of them. I'm doing, especially when they're combined with the e-deliveries. It just makes things so much easier for people to execute on both sides. And I think some of the virtual meetings, maybe we're only going to do one in-person meeting a year now and do the rest virtual. So it allows us to adapt and keep the things that are working, and the things that aren't adding as much value we might be able to let go. But there's a lot of things that came in from a technology perspective that added so much value to our clients and to us, and made it easier to do the business.
What final thoughts would you like to leave with the audience?
The final thoughts I would like to leave is doing business as it always has been done isn't always necessarily the answer. And so I would like to look at this as an opportunity. I feel like this pandemic has presented us all with an opportunity to analyze how we do business and see, can we do it a different way? We get to do that. We get to do things differently because people are open to change, because that's all they've seen for the last bunch of times. So it's easier for them to adapt. So it's easier for you to add that for your clients.
Wendy, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I've definitely learned a lot about new technology and different technological offerings that I'll definitely be looking at implementing in my own practice, and hopefully the audience will be looking to do the same.